This is Steve Dupuie for the Bible News Prophecy Program with Dr. Bob Thiel. Dr. Thiel, the European Union recently restarted the talks on a nuclear agreement between the United States and Iran. What is the current status of those talks?
Well, depending who you talk to, not very good. I saw something a couple of days ago. Let me read a headline here. U.S. tells Israel nuclear deal with Iran is off the table for now. An Israeli news website, Yaman Yisrael, said it had learned that it was off for the foreseeable future. And they said a message was conveyed to the Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid in recent conversation with U.S. President Biden. And Bloomberg actually wrote, top U.S. officials have told Israel's prime minister that a nuclear deal between Iran and world powers won't be signed in the foreseeable future. And the European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrel, he's been negotiating this, but this past week said he thinks that the deal is in danger. I also saw a report today somebody sent to me, and this is a report that says Mossad chief. Now, the Mossad is kind of Israel's secret police spy system. David Barnea warned his U.S. counterparts against joining a restored nuclear deal with Iran. He had went to Washington, D.C. He met with the heads of the CIA, the FBI, and the National Security Council. He went to the Pentagon, I guess, and met with the Joint Chiefs of Staff as well as other people. He showed these chiefs what he called sensitive intelligence materials, and he made it clear, quote, Israel will not be able to stand idly by while Iran continues to deceive the world, according to a statement from the Israeli Prime Minister's office. The Americans assured him that the U.S. was committed to the security of the state of Israel. And then here's another quote. The Americans emphasize that they will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon, and they will continue to act in full cooperation with the state of Israel with regards to regional issues in the Middle East concerning the security of the state of Israel. So it doesn't look like it's going really well in terms of getting this deal right now.
Okay, so then it seems as if that, and I'll ask the question this way, does this then put Iran and Israel at a higher risk of nuclear conflict?
Yes, potentially, because even a couple of days ago, I saw a picture of the Prime Minister of Israel standing next to an F-35 fighter jet, and he made a threat to Iran that it could soon feel Israel's, quote, long arm, end quote. And he said, if Iran continues to test us, it'll discover Israel's long arm and capabilities. We will continue to act on all fronts against terrorism, against those who seek to harm us. And then he said, quote, as President Biden and I agreed, Israel has full freedom to act as we see fit to prevent the possibility of Iran becoming a nuclear power threat. And, you know, Israel has a history of carrying out covert attacks inside Iran, and it's been suspected to be behind a bunch of mysterious deaths that occurred within Iran this past spring. But a few weeks ago, Iran slammed the U.S. for procrastinating on a nuclear deal. And let me read something from a spokesman for the Iranian foreign ministry. His name is Nasser Kanani. Said, quote, the Americans are procrastinating, and there's inaction from the European sides. America and Europe need an agreement more than Iran does. But now the Americans said, no, the idea we delayed this negotiation is just not true. But a lot of people think it is. And actually in July, this past summer, Biden said that Iran can't get nuclear weapons. And he didn't like the fact that then U.S. President Trump got the U.S. out of the deal. But Biden said we could act against Iran and still have a deal that can curtail their program. He thinks that makes sense. But he's basically told Iran he's willing to engage them militarily, and Iran's thinking, you guys keep delaying. So
does the failure of these negotiations have any prophetic ramifications?
I think so. Actually, within a day or two of Joe Biden becoming US president, I wrote some stuff about this. And one of the things I wrote was that after Donald Trump's election, Iran declared it was going to pursue development of nuclear powered ships. And that because of biblical prophecy, that indicates that it will be primarily Arabic nations that will support the biblical king of the south of Daniel 11:40 to 43, probably also the same person in Ezekiel chapter 30, verses 1 through 8. And I think Turkey and Afghanistan might support it. But Iran's not listed as one of them. Mm-hmm. And despite its posturing and its relative military strength, I've all long said I think Iran would be somehow neutralized. So this could be from an attack involving Israel or internal unrest. It could involve EMP or similar weapons against Iran. And there's some biblical prophecies about Israel to be attacked by someone that sounds like Iran with an ally, Syria. And in January 2021, by the way, around when I wrote this, so Iranian lawmakers submitted a bill seeking the government by law to commit to Israel's destruction by the year 2040. And that came from Iran's state media. So because of all this, I wrote, Iran may decide to strike out against Israel and likely Jerusalem if it determines it should. And then the next part, if it is frustrated with the Biden-Harris administration policy to delays, that may very well be a factor in it taking prophesied military action. And Iran does, by the way, have weapons that can cause damage. You know, the United States itself, as well as Israel, are vulnerable to EMP, that's electromagnetic pulse attacks, also biological weapons, chemical weapons, terrorism, nuclear weapons, dirty bombs, which are just basically regular bombs with radioactive material in it. And that can happen with the conflict involving Iran.
Well, how then would an Iranian attack on the U.S. fit in with Bible prophecy, or would it?
Well, if that were to actually happen, it would not be the final destruction of the United States. However, prophetically, you can read in Ezekiel chapter 32, verses 24 to 25, something bad is going to happen to Iran. And I suspect, though, if there's some major thing going on, this could basically push the world to come up with a peace deal in the Middle East. The Bible talks about a European prince who's going to rise up and confirm some kind of a deal. And this is consistent with basically end-time biblical prophecies. The Bible says, actually Jesus said in Mark 13, 7 to 8, that we would see certain sorrows, violence, and troubles continuing, and that's going to happen. That's been happening. But again, we're going to see a deal in Daniel 9:27 confirmed. And there's prophecies that relate to the destruction of Damascus in Isaiah 17:1, and that's never happened since Isaiah wrote that prophecy, as well as some damage hitting Israel. And so things are basically being set up for it. And again, it may happen after Iran and Israel get involved in the conflict, or maybe the United States is also involved.
So because this negotiation was led by the European Union, had this nuclear negotiation been successful, would it have been a fulfillment of Daniel 9:27?
No, I don't think it's that deal. I mean, it theoretically could possibly be, but not the way I've seen the deal. And if you look at biblically some things that look to happen, I want to read something from the book of Isaiah, chapter 22, starting in verse 6 here. It says, Elam bore the quiver with chariots and men and horsemen, and Ker uncovered the shield. It shall come to pass that your choicest valleys shall be full of chariots, and your horsemen shall set themselves in array at the gate. He, verse 8, God, removed the protection of Judah You looked in that day to the armor of the house of the forest. You saw the damage to the city of David that was very great. Now, when we look at this, Elam looks to be a reference to at least some in Iran. And as far as Kir goes, the Bible talks about that the king of Assyria, when he took over Damascus, he moved Syrians into Kir. So we know that there are some association of Kir and Syria. And the Bible talks about a time that Kir will be destroyed in Isaiah 15:1. And it also says that Syria's capital, Damascus, will be destroyed in Isaiah 17:1. And since Syria is Iran's closest ally, military cooperation between both of them looks consistent with the prophecies in Isaiah 22.
So is Israel and or Iran taking any further action that might result in military conflict between the nations? And if so, would this fit in with Bible prophecy?
Well, interestingly, in the news yesterday, here's a headline: Iran building large base in eastern Syria for advanced weapons. And so apparently, Iran is building its second largest military installation now in Syria. Now, it's not been totally confirmed, officially confirmed, but this is what it sounds like from reports from Syria. So definitely we're seeing the tie between Syria and Iran, and they look like they're increasing that tie. And I've long believed that we would probably have a regional war in the Middle East, probably involving Iran and Syria and Israel, perhaps some of the Palestinians or people from, or Hamas from Gaza or others, and that might be what it'll take to get a peace deal, because typically, peace deals normally don't happen till there's a war.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at what's been proposed by the United States, by Europe, by the Palestinians, and by the Israelis for a peace deal, they contradict each other. Okay, you can't say, for example, Israel wants Jerusalem or claims Jerusalem as its eternal capital, undivided capital. And you've got the Palestinians who say, no, Jerusalem's our capital. We're willing to split it with you for a while, but it's our capital. And Israel says no. Then you've got the Palestinians who want actually all the land back that they lost, that were lost in the 1967 war. Mm-hmm. And if you actually press on it, they actually want everything back from the 1947-48 conflict as well. And the reason I mention that is when you have, and oh, by the way, Israel doesn't want to give all, Israel's willing to give some land back, but not much, or not that much. And so you've got two sides that won't agree. So how are we going to see a peace deal? Well, normally, if two sides will not agree, pretty well hold a gun to somebody's head to make it happen.
Right.
And that's what it looks like is going to happen there, which is why I felt that we would see regional war there. And again, Iran has said it wants to destroy Israel. Syria, by the way, has not signed a peace deal with Israel since the 1967 war. They're technically still at war with Israel. Mm. Israel goes into Syrian airspace and bombs Syria every now and then. And again, seems to be doing that with Iran. So it seems logical, and we look at the scriptures, that these events are going to line up. And Iran may well get frustrated with the progress of the peace talks, like I've been warning for some time, and decide Israel's threatening us, the United States isn't going to come through, and Iran may decide to take actions to fulfill the prophecies in Isaiah 22. Great damage is supposed to hit the city of David, which is part of Jerusalem. And with Kir uncovering the shield, kind of makes me wonder if Kir, the Syrians, will actually somehow get past at least part of Israel's Iron Dome for protection. Huh. So a lot of things seem to be lining up with that right now, and we should watch the Middle East, because that is an area that Jesus said to watch.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you, Dr. Thiel. For more interviews with Dr. Thiel, written articles, and videos, visit our website at BibleNewsProphecy.net. This is Steve Dupuie for the Bible News Prophecy Program.